And a very good Tuesday evening to everybody. How's it going? This is the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, and you're listening to a very special episode of the Rcwr Show, Tuesday night edition. It is our Tuesday night wrestling report edition of the Rcwr Show on July 10th, 2012, right at the stroke of 11 o'clock p.m. Do hope y'all have had a fantastic weekend, and the work week has been kicking off pretty good for some of you all. Thank those of you that are listening to us right now on Blog Talk Radio and over at our sister website over at InfinityOneProductions.com. Now, you can feel free to jump in on the number of topics that we're going to be covering on tonight's show. Right now, as we have a chat room that's open over on Blog Talk Radio, you can find it by visiting blogtalkradio.com/the Rcwr Show, and you'll be able to come across our chat room that way. Feel free to chime on in. If you're a little shy, you don't like talking on the phone, it's okay. We've got a chat room for you. We got you covered. Now, for those of you that do want to chime in your thoughts on a number of the topics that we'll be covering on tonight's show, we do have a toll-free 800 number that you can call. Just kick back, smile, and dial, and you'll be live on the air. You can call us toll-free at 1-888-342-9848. Once again, that number is 1-888-342-9848. And you can also call us at area code 646-478-3525. Again, that's 646-478-3525. So a little something new that we're going to be doing throughout the remainder of our shows from here on out is we're going to take in callers in our wrestling fan line a little bit later on in the show, probably within the last 25 minutes of the show. We'll take your calls, as we just have been coming across a lot of good content that we have to be covering on our shows, and we just want to make sure that we're able to get through everything. And for those of you that have been waiting eagerly, yes, it's finally returned after being on hiatus for a couple of weeks. It's the return of our entertainment edition. So you definitely want to stick around for that. We'll get you caught up on everything that has been going on. And a new segment that we're going to be introducing, Hidden Gems, as I like to call it, as each week I'll be picking out a little bit of an underrated CD, DVD. I'll give you two things to go check out. So give you a little something to do, jumpstart your weekend, especially if you're having a lazy Sunday. So you'll appreciate that segment that's going to be coming up later tonight. Now, tonight's episode is being sponsored by our good friends over at the NWA Championship from Florida. You can go check them out right now. They're on Facebook. Look them up at NWA Championship Wrestling from Florida. Again, that's on Facebook at NWA Championship Wrestling from Florida. And they also got their website up, which has been doing very nicely, very nice layout. Been very pleased with the type of content that has continued to be added on there on a daily basis. Check them out at their website over at NWAFloridaTV.net. Again, that's NWAFloridaTV.net. I actually had just happened to be on that website probably a couple of days ago, and they have some really nice, interesting pics up of one of their female wrestlers by the name of Kaylee Crush, and she is a beautiful vixen. If you guys like your women a little tad bit thick, nice little love thing that's going on there, you definitely wouldn't mind checking out Kaylee Crush. She's got a nice little shape going on, nice thick lady. Definitely want to go check her out right now. Nice little pinups that they have on their website of her. Check it out. You'll thank me later, trust me. So, we have been off the air for what, guys? Probably about 48 hours, and we came off a fantastic TNA Destination X pay-per-view. And I know we have some people that sat up and said, hey, man, TNA, we can talk about that on Tuesday, or we can talk about that on Thursday. There's also a Sunday night show. That's a very valid point, but the Destination X pay-per-view was a fantastic pay-per-view. Now, we're not going to go into a great length of a detail talking about that Destination X pay-per-view. Now, for those of you that did not have the pleasure of checking out that pay-per-view, this is what I recommend that you do. When you get a free moment after you're done listening to this broadcast, highly recommend that you go check out our TNA Destination X post show, where I gave a breakdown of every single match that had happened and my takeaway from the pay-per-view, which had culminated in Austin Aries dethroning the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Robert Roode after he was finding some way to retain his title for 8 months. What a great pay-per-view that it was. Highly recommend you go check out that post show. Check it out as soon as you're done listening to this episode. Now, we can't go any further into our show without taking the time to thank those of you, the listeners, those of you that have participated in our TNA Destination X post show, whether you had called into the show, you had joined in our chat room, you checked out the episode live, you checked it out on the downloads, or you checked it out on YouTube, as that has been receiving a ton of views. We want to take the time to thank you from all of us here at the Rcwr Show and Infinity One Productions. We want to take the time to thank all of you for checking out that TNA Destination X post show, as you quickly made it be one of our downloaded and listened to shows, and you made it be quickly one of our most viewed episodes on YouTube. We greatly appreciate the love right there, folks. Really means a lot. So, let's talk about this WWE Raw episode that had came on 24 hours ago. Now, I'm not going to sit up like I usually do each week and I give a in-depth breakdown on everything that has transpired on the episode of Raw. I'm not going to do that. I was actually debating on actually covering the episode of Raw. I was about to just go in a completely different angle altogether with the way we were going to be doing tonight's show, but there was that part of me that said, well, unfortunately, you might have those that may have not seen Raw, so we have to talk about Raw, but I'm not going to go at a great length about it because the wildfire that spreaded after Raw went off the air Monday night, just a ton of people, myself included, we all sat up and said to ourselves, man, this was probably the second worst episode of Raw that they've produced in 2012. You can only follow that up with the previous holder, which was the John Cena versus Michael Cole for your main event on Raw. And it was just one of those episodes of Raw where this is, and I have to say this off the break before we go any further into the show. When we open up the wrestling fan line, you know, normally I love hearing what you all have to say about Raw, especially if it's very valid points. But this is the only thing I would say, is with regards to the episode of Raw that we saw, there is no need to sit up and say, yeah, Raw sucked, it was one of the worst episodes that I ever saw. No, we want to cut that red tape because that horse, unfortunately, within the past 24 hours has been beaten so senseless to death that even though the horse is now dead, the horse is literally moving around and is saying, please stop. So let's not even bring up the fact how bad Raw was on Monday night. So when we open up the phone lines and we take your calls, if you're going to bring up Raw, I would hope that you are going to bring up some bright spots to the episode because so many people have said Raw was bad. We get it. It's over with. It's done. But that's what makes tonight's show so interesting tonight, because this isn't going to be a show about, oh, well, Raw sucked and blah this and blah that. Oh, it was garbage. you've pretty much probably, you the wrestling fan, you've probably sat up and you may have already heard that on probably 3, 4, 5 other wrestling shows. What makes us so unique is that we sit up and say, okay, obviously they put out a bad product. What could they have done to make it better should have been the question. And that question is going to be answered tonight as we give a in-depth look at WWE Raw Super Show. So, for the next 90-plus minutes, get loose with it. Grab yourself a seat, get yourself a nice cold beverage, as it's been pretty hot today, and let's jump right into it, shall we? Now, the way that we're going to break this down, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on everything that had transpired on WWE Raw, and then we're going to do something new. We're going to give it the Lee effect, okay? Now, the Lee effect is basically how I would have written and booked the show. Now, as you all know, if you're longtime listeners, you know that I am an avid writer. I've been a writer for over 20-plus years. I've written underground comic books, short stories, poems, some of my work of which has been featured under bogus names. It's the truth. And I also had the experience of being a booker for a little funky mom-pa wrestling promotion that's thankfully no longer in business. So keep that in mind when I get ready to give this episode of Raw a revamp by giving it the Lee effect. I think you guys are really going to appreciate it. So let's kick it off by quickly running down what had happened on Raw Monday night. Now, our show would kick off with AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, AJ Lee, and man, this was one of the questions that had just kept jumping out there throughout the night, which was, man, when was the last time you saw a WWE diva kick off Raw and just really had commanded attention? I thought that was kind of an interesting question, but I thought it needed to be a little bit more fine-tuned. I thought that the question really should have been, when was the last time we've seen a WWE diva command so much attention as she's going to be playing a significant part in a pay-per-view match? And I had to dust off the cobwebs deep in the back of my brain for a little bit. And the last time that I could remember a diva being so important to the WWE for a major storyline, I had to go as far back as Lita. Now, for those of you that were watching WWE back then during the Attitude Era, you definitely know about Lita. She used to be with the Hardy Boys. Well, there was this one storyline that had took place where in real life, Lita had an affair with Edge. And at the time, she had been in a long-time relationship with Matt Hardy, who was still employed with WWE at the time. Well, Adam Copeland's Edge, his wife, she would kind of find out about what had happened, and the next thing you know, things just started turning really ugly, and the next thing you know, you have Matt Hardy, who was trying to get into it with Edge. WWE, they decided they were going to go on ahead and they were going to fire Matt Hardy from the company, but the fans, they were so passionate, they sent letters to the WWE, they sent emails. I remember I was actually one of the Matt Hardy fans that sat up and said, look, you got to have this guy come back. It's not his fault that all this stuff had happened. You give the guy another chance, give him another break. What the hell? It happens. And eventually Vince McMahon and crew, they would listen to the WWE fans and they would tell Matt Hardy, hey, look, come on back. And the way they took advantage of the situation was confronting what was actually happening with the trio head on, as they had them all continue to play off of what all had transpired. Now, by this time, when Matt Hardy returned Lita was no longer with Edge. She just decided she didn't want to have anything to do with him. But I bring up that storyline because Lita had played such a critical role at that point. Everybody wants to get on Eve being a hostie and what AJ's doing. Well, don't get it twisted, folks. Lita was one of the original bad girls. She was one of the original hoskies that had sat up and did that, because let's not forget, when Lita did what she did, I mean, her popularity was already there in the WWE, but it skyrocketed even more when she was involved in the Edge-Matt Hardy rivalry. So that would be the moment that I would pick where a diva had commanded so much attention. And I just have to give props to AJ Lee, because here is a young girl that took advantage of a situation when it was provided to her, and she has just been doing a hell of a job running with it. I mean, she has become more relevant than the Divas title, than the entire Divas division combined. I mean, she has literally replaced both of those. Notice we didn't even really see any other Diva action. We really haven't been getting that much Diva action within recent weeks. It's pretty much been all AJ, and she has just been doing a phenomenal job, I feel, and I'm very pleased with her work. That's one of the bright spots that I can take away from this episode of WWE Raw. Now, we would see AJ, she would go into her little angle about she's not really sure who she should pick, and that eventually she would sit up and propose to CM Punk, who's just shocked as hell as Daniel Bryan comes out and he's telling her, no, don't marry him. This guy, he doesn't even care about you. I'm the one that cares about you. The only thing CM Punk cares about is making sure that he walks out of the pay-per-view with his WWE title. On the other hand, I want to marry you. CM Punk, he calls his bluff, and then we get a interruption by the returning anonymous Raw GM. That's right, the anonymous Raw GM is back. And basically the anonymous Raw GM would pin AJ with CM Punk to take on Daniel Bryan and Eve for the main event match. So we got that set for the night. Now, our first match, we saw Sheamus taking on Jack Swagger. Sheamus, he beat Jack Swagger within record timing. I mean, he took this guy out in seconds. He took him out with the white noise. Then he followed it up with a devastating bro kick. That was it. We would see Alberto Del Rio make an appearance on a Titantron, telling him post-match that he's going to beat him like so bad that he's going to leave him on the ground like a dying perro. For those of you that don't know Spanish, that means dog. He's going to leave him like that this Sunday at the pay-per-view as he's looking to take away Sheamus's World Heavyweight title. So Del Rio, he's done on the Titantron. Sheamus, he's just full of rage. He sees Jack Swagger is continuing to stand on his feet. He gives him another devastating bro kick that just poor Jack Swagger, man. It just hasn't been a good month of June, and it looks like July hasn't been kind to him either, as he just continues to get buried. Now, we would see a few plugs for the WWE Raw 1000th episode, as it's just 2 weeks away. From there, we also find out that The Rock, the Brahma Bull, the People's Champion, is going to be returning for the 1000th episode of Raw as well. So this is looking to be better and better by the week, folks. Now, match 2, we had Dolph Ziggler and Tensai defeating Christian, Tyson Kidd. Post-match, we see Tensai, he's continuing to beat the living hell out of Tyson Kidd. Obviously, Tensai, he still holds resentment towards Tyson Kidd for beating him a couple of weeks back to qualify for the ladder match at Money in the Bank for the World Heavyweight title contract. Now, from there, folks, we see Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, they're getting into it. Heated words are exchanged. Michael Cole, he splashes a cup of water or some type of liquid in Jerry Lawler's face, and Lawler, he's getting ready to punch him, when all of a sudden we would get interrupted by the anonymous Raw GM who says, hey, you know what, I want to see the two of you get it on. I want to see a WrestleMania rematch. I want to see you two get it on one-on-one later tonight. Michael Cole, he's adamant. He's like, look, I refuse to do this. On the one side, you got the fans sitting up. They don't want to see me wrestle. They want to see me commentate, yet now they want to see me wrestle. Y'all need to make up your minds. Anonymous Raw GM would chime in again and say, okay, well, look, this is what we're going to do. We got a WWE poll up right now. Go there, WWE Universe, you vote. The results will dictate whether or not we're going to see this match. Now, on a funny note, and I had said this on Twitter as I was chatting with random people during the night, I said it's funny that you go to the WWE's.com website to cast your vote on this match and they don't show you the results. Usually when you go to a website and you put in your vote, you can see the results to get an idea of how things are looking. And WWE, they've been known to do it in the past. Well, for this particular poll, you didn't get to see the results. So for me, that said to my mind that, okay, well, whether we like it or not, we're going to get this match, so we're kind of screwed either way. What's the point of voting, especially if you're not going to be able to see the results? Now, match 3, we would have Brodus Clay defeat Drew McIntyre. Backstage segment, all throughout the night, we see Santino. He's taken it upon himself to search for the anonymous Raw GM. He feels that the anonymous Raw general manager is in the arena, and he's going to find out once and for all the identity of the GM. And he comes across Chris Jericho, questions whether or not he might be the GM. Little chuckle moment right there between the two of them as Santino, he continues on his search. Jericho bumps into Big Show. He says, look, this is the reunion of Rcwr Show. We got to make sure that we're on the same page tonight. And Big Show cuts him off. He says, look, I'm hip to your schemes. I know what you're all about. You're always looking for an angle. Not tonight. Only thing you need to be concerned about is staying out of my way and making sure you don't get knocked out. Now, from there, we see a Raw moment going back from February 11th, 2002, as the lovely Stephanie McMahon returns to recall that moment where Triple H had found out that her pregnancy was fake and how she had hired an actor to pretend being a doctor, the doctor who basically checked her stuff and found out that she, was pregnant and everything. And as a result of that, Triple H decided that he was going to go on ahead and marry her. Well, once Triple H found out the truth, he said some derogatory stuff towards Stephanie, pedigreed the hell out of Vince McMahon, destroyed the wedding props. It was a really awesome moment. I actually remember that day very clearly. From there, we see a Charlie Sheen plug as he's going to be the social media ambassador on the 1000th episode of Raw. We follow that up with John Cena, who comes out. He's basically out to kill some time as he's hyping up the Money in the Bank pay-per-view this Sunday and pretty much claims that he's going to be the one to win Money in the Bank, go on to become the new WWE champion. As from there, it's our 4th match. We have John Cena and Kane teaming up to take on Chris Jericho and Big Show. This match would end in a no contest. I played this 2, 3, 4 times. This particular match, the way that it ended, it was very silly as we see Big Show, who basically just Irish whipped Kane into some steel steps, and basically the bell gets rung. It's a no contest. I was just having a hard time buying into that. I thought that was very, very silly. Now, from there, folks, we see a recap of AJ, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan that's shown earlier in the night. From there, we see another backstage segment. This backstage segment I actually liked. We saw CM Punk and Eve have an exchange of words. Odd pairing, I know, right? But this was a very interesting backstage segment where Eve wished CM Punk luck as AJ is nothing more than spiteful, emotional. She's nothing but a train wreck, and that she if CM Punk doesn't tell AJ, I do, then she may make sure that he doesn't leave Sunday's pay-per-view as the WWE champion. Now, critical moment here as Eve points out to CM Punk that although he's held the title for the past 7 months, it can't be easy being in the shadows of Triple H, The Rock, Big Show, or even Brock Lesnar. Now, she adds even more insult to injury when she brings up that amongst all the men that she just named, that it's AJ that poses the biggest threat and that it must be pretty emasculating. Nice backstage segment right there. Nice exchange of words between Eve and CM Punk. I was really enjoying that. Now, in another silly backstage segment, we go now as we see Santino, who finds a phone. Turns out it belongs to Great Khali. Santino questions Khali, says, hey, by chance, are you the Raw Anonymous GM? Khali, he's like, no. So that pretty much ends it right there. Our fifth match of the night, we see a Money in the Bank qualifying match as Sin Cara defeated Heath Slater. We know the gag now whenever we see Heath Slater on Raw. We know that a legend is going to be returning. They've only been returning on Raw. So post-match, we have Heath Slater. He's upset, of course, and he says, hey, send me any man from the back to go one-on-one with me right now. I don't care if it's a former WWE champion. I just want to face somebody one-on-one, and I know I can beat them. We hear this patriotic music that plays, and we're like, who the heck is this? Who's getting ready to come out? It would be no other than Mr. Bob Backlund. That's right, folks, the former WWF/WWF champion comes out at the age of 62, and he's got on his blue trunks. He looked pretty good. He was in damn good shape. He was practically just as I remembered him 15, 20 years ago. Not that much has changed of him. He came in there, he applied the crossface chicken wing to make Slater tap out. Now from there, we see the results of our Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler, as 75% of the votes came in wanting to see the match take place. Go figure. It's revealed that R-Truth and Kofi Kingston are going to be taking on Camacho and Hunico at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view pre-show that's going to be exclusively for YouTube this Sunday. You'll be able to see it 30 minutes before the jump start of the pay-per-view. And we see a plug for WWE Raw Active. Now, for those of you that aren't really sure what that's about, basically, this is WWE really using social media at its finest, as they're going to be using Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, Stumble. I mean, you name it. They are just really going all out now as they're trying to really push that interactive envelope with the WWE Universe. I love it. I feel sad for the WWE wrestlers, though, because they really don't have that much of a downtime now, as they're just going to have to be everywhere. It seemed like there used to be a time where a wrestler could be on Twitter, and whatever they would say on Twitter, it was their business alone, and they could say, post whatever. But now, at least as far as WWE is concerned, you're what's the word I'm looking for? You're working for them 24/7, even when you're not in an arena. Very sad. Sixth match of the evening, we see Jerry Lawler taking on Michael Cole. This was a really silly match. This was a match where a lot of people actually ended up flipping the channel because they just didn't like what the hell they were seeing. They were just disgusted. Even though this match had ended quickly, it was still just silly, as Booker T, Josh Matthews, they're calling the match. Match ends quickly as Jerry Lawler puts Michael Cole over his shoulders and does a spin maneuver, an airplane spin, and then pins him to end this match. Now, it should be noted that Michael Cole, in the early seconds of this contest, he tried to get out of the ring, but Booker T would send him back in the ring physically by grabbing him, tossing him in the ring. Now, even though Jerry Lawler won this match, the anonymous Raw GM would chime in and say that due to Booker T's interference, Michael Cole actually picks up the win. From there, we see Santino, who comes out, and he says, hey, I believe I know exactly where the anonymous Raw GM is. I've checked everywhere. I've looked in the backstage area, you name it. I've been everywhere. The only place that I believe the anonymous Raw GM could possibly be is under the ring. And the anonymous Raw GM would chime in and say, no, actually, I'm not under the ring. You don't know what you're talking about. Santino, he tries to check, and he thinks he sees something, but he's not really sure. And then we see a pair of hands just come from under the ring, grab him by his ankles, try to yank him under the ring. And we see Booker T trying to help him, and it's revealed that it's Hornswoggle who is under the ring, and he has a laptop in his hand. So everybody's standing there a little perplexed, wondering just what the heck is going on here. Hornswoggle, are you possibly the anonymous Raw GM? And Hornswoggle, he nods his head like, uh-huh. And so there is your $1 million mystery. After, a couple of years, we now find out who the anonymous Raw GM is. It's the 3'2" Hornswoggle. I know. Trust me, I'll be dissecting that a little more in a little bit. Now, our sixth match of the evening, our main event, we had CM Punk and AJ defeat Eve and Daniel Bryan. Now, post-match, we see Bryan wants for AJ to leave the arena with him and go get married, while CM Punk, he shares his thoughts with AJ, and he pretty much comes clean with her after all these weeks, because keep in mind, every time we saw CM Punk with AJ, it kind of seemed like he was holding back a little bit, like he really didn't want to tell AJ the truth. He wasn't trying to break her feelings. Well, we would see AJ sit up and say, CM Punk say to AJ, rather, look, you're a cute girl and everything, but I got to be honest with you. There's just no way I'm going to marry you, and if I'm costing my chance to retain my title this Sunday, then so be it, but you have to know the truth. I just don't have feelings for you like that. Well, AJ, she would come right back. She'd smack CM Punk in the face. We got Daniel Bryan, who's just standing there. He's loving what he's seeing, and he's telling AJ, come home, sweetie, come home. And he just extends his arms wide open, wanting her to come in for a hug. Slowly, AJ walks over to him, and she smacks him in the face, and Raw ends with her just chanting, yes, 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 as she's looking on at both men, and you're just kind of left standing there saying, this should be an interesting pay-per-view now, because there's really no telling what direction AJ is going to go. That's going to do it for the Raw recap. Now, for those of you that haven't had the luxury of checking out my review, it's up on InfinityOneProductions.com, and I gave a very in-depth look into each match, each segment. Overall, though, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Now, where do I begin to dissect this? Let's start with the fact that WWE has a Money in the Bank pay-per-view that's going to be coming up this Sunday. Now, they have been on one hell of a streak as of late when it comes to producing great pay-per-views, decent quality pay-per-views. The problem they've been experiencing the past few months now, and I know many of you have noticed it, they have not done a decent job in hyping up the pay-per-view on the final episodes of Raw and SmackDown. Now, SmackDown can get a little bit of a slack because it's the Friday show, and they've been doing actually a phenomenal job as it is. As they've tried to make it be more about wrestling rather than storylines every single segment or every other segment, if you will. But Raw, that final Raw leading into a pay-per-view, they just have been doing a very poor job in making you, that wrestling fan, want to come up out of your pocket and say, yes, this is definitely a pay-per-view that I want to order. And I was just really disappointed with the way that they had delivered Raw Monday night. Now, let me introduce to you something new that we're going to be doing from time to time. It's called the Lee Effect. And like I said at the top of the show, we're going to take a negative, basically, and we're going to turn it into a positive. So this is how Raw should have went down last night. This is the Lee Effect, folks. Get ready. You're going to like this. Now, I was feeling the opening and the closing between AJ, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. That's fine. The beginning and the end, that's fine. Let's get rid of all that stuff that's happening in between, though. Now, the first match, Sheamus versus Jack Swagger, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The second match I have a problem with, as we saw Dolph Ziggler take on Tensai to defeat Christian and Tyson Kidd. Now, here's the problem that I have with that. You just buried the contestants that are supposed to be participating in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. This needs to be the episode of Raw where you have these guys looking very strong going into that particular type of match. You want to make it look, you want to make it appear as though, man, this guy actually might have a shot. He's been looking very impressive in recent weeks. You want to leave that doubt in that wrestling fan's mind that's going to be purchasing that pay-per-view, that they can expect just about anything to happen. And with this match, having Ziggler and Tensai bury Christian and Kidd, it did nothing for them. Now, the way this match should have been touched up, I would have replaced this match with Christian and Tyson Kidd taking on Kurt Hawkins and Tyler Rex. That just would have made perfect sense. Just have it be the baby faces taking on the heels. Now, Hawkins, Tyler Rex, they were involved with Ryback a couple of weeks ago on an episode of SmackDown. Hey, why not continue to have them put somebody else over? That would have been a great moment right there. Now, our third match, we have Brodus Clay taking on Drew McIntyre. Now, this is where I'm a little bit baffled, folks. We have Brodus Clay, who suffered a humiliating ass whooping at the hands of the Big Show a couple of weeks on Raw. And when Raw had came back from a commercial break, we see EMTs, referees, they're helping out Brodus Clay. They're trying to take him to the back, get him medical attention. And then out of nowhere, we see the Big Show return, and he just delivers a WMD to the face of Brodus Clay. And you're telling me a couple of weeks later, we see on last night's Raw, Brodus Clay come out, and he's dancing with his little Funketeer dancers, and he's all happy and jolly. I don't know about you guys, but if I got my ass beat like that, I would be looking for the big payback. I would be sitting up saying, Big Show, you and me, we got some unfinished business that we need to take care of. I mean, come on now, guys. Just think about it for a second. We just had Big Show in the streak of Brodus Clay, and then he follows it up post-match by adding more insult to injury by knocking him out. Not to mention the knockout punch that he gave to him a couple of weeks back on Raw in a backstage segment. Then when he beat him down along with half of the WWE talent when Big Show was just on his reign throughout the night. How can WWE just drop the ball like that? This is where we put in the Lee effect. You could have Brodus Clay come out, right? But you don't have Brodus Clay coming out dancing and all that other silly stuff. You have Brodus Clay come out, and he just has this mean look on his face. He's not dancing. He's coming straight to the ring, and he just buries the hell out of Drew McIntyre. You got the dancers. They're looking on. They're like, hey, What's up with Brodus, baby? He's not dancing tonight. What's going on? And they're trying to hurry up and race behind him as he gets in the ring, finishes Drew McIntyre. He gets a microphone, and he says, Big Show, you and me, we got some unfinished business. You need to bring your big ass out right now. Big Show comes out. Brodus Clay cuts a promo talking about how he hasn't forgotten what Big Show did to him. They need to squash this. Get in the ring right now. Let's get it on. Lights flicker. The anonymous GM pops up, says, yes, Brodus Clay, Big Show. I've been paying attention to what's been transpiring between you two guys for quite some time now, and this will indeed end tonight. Right now, it's going to be Brodus Clay taking on Big Show in a Extreme Rules match. So, hey, you could have bust out some kendo sticks, a trash can, all that good stuff, but it just could have been, this is going to be resolved once and for all. That's how it should have been played out. Now, you could have had Big Show win that match. You know why? Because he's involved in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. You want him looking strong going into the pay-per-view. And you could just have Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler be sitting there at the commentating booth and say, man, Big Show has just been on one hell of an ugly streak ever since he had crossed paths with John Laurinaitis. Is there any way that this monster could possibly be stopped? Is there any way this giant could possibly be stopped? And Michael Cole could be like, I don't know, King. It's just not looking good for the WWE title side of things right now. Now, you go to the fourth match where we had Cena and Kane versus what? It was supposed to be originally Jericho. Well, that should have been switched up just a little bit. I think what should have happened with this match right here, I think you should have had Cena and Kane go one-on-one. I think that would have sufficed, okay? And maybe that match could have ended in a double count-out. So both of the guys, they look strong. Now, with regards to Chris Jericho, honestly, I would have gave Chris Jericho the night off. Let him go finish putting the finishing touches on Fozzie's new album, Sin and Bones. That's going to be coming out in August. Just have Chris Jericho show up at the pay-per-view. I wouldn't have used him on Raw that night. You know what I'm saying? Because that would have just been more of a brain jerker, if you will, because you're trying to figure out, what could we do with Jericho? What could we do with Jericho? You know, bump all that. Just give him the night off. It's not like he's getting ready to take time off anyway. Sooner or later, he's about to roll out. Just go ahead, hook him up with a night off, have him show up at the pay-per-view. Would have made more sense. Now, you had the Sin Cara versus Heath Slater. That was fine. That was perfect. Didn't have a problem with that. Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole, that just should have been eliminated altogether. Now, that match should have occurred on the 1000th episode of Raw. It just would have made more sense. That's 3 hours that you got to kill. You want to talk about special moments, things of that nature. That would have been a perfect moment to have Michael Cole take on Jerry the King Lawler one more time. They should have saved it for that. We didn't need this. Instead, we should have been graced with an appearance by Ryback. Kind of weird. Past couple of weeks, Ryback has been making an appearance on Raw. He's been in competition. But this week, they didn't use Ryback. Very weird right there, but that's what should have happened. Should never had seen Jerry Lawler take on Michael Cole. Now, with regards to this whole Hornswoggle thing, being the anonymous Raw GM, I would have just scratched that idea altogether. Now, as many of the WWE fans know, especially those of you that love to try to do your homework, you all know that one of the original ideas that WWE had a while back when the anonymous Raw GM concept was fresh was to eventually have it be revealed to be Michael Cole, who they felt was doing a superb job delivering the anonymous Raw GM's messages. But they felt over time that he was becoming just a bit too popular and that he was beyond that. So they didn't make him be the anonymous GM. Since then, it's been pretty much, well, who could it possibly be? I can understand WWE for wanting to sit up and just bury the anonymous Raw GM altogether, but I just felt that it was one of those, man, just who the hell is this person? I think that it's something that they should have had continuing to go. That way, if they ever needed to come back to it, at least they had it on the back burner. You know what I'm saying, folks? So I definitely don't think that they should have buried it. So you may be asking, you may be saying to yourself right now, well, Lee, if that would be the case, you don't have it be revealed to be Hornswoggle, how do you save the night as Santino's been walking around and he's been trying to figure out who is the anonymous GM? Well, one point in a backstage segment, since we've pretty much seen Santino in backstage skits, we should have seen Santino cross paths with a few WWE divas that are talking amongst themselves. And he says, pardon me, excuse me, have you seen the anonymous Raw GM? And they could be like, no, Santino, we don't even know how the anonymous GM looks, so how would we possibly know? And Santino could be like, very valid point. Yes, excuse me. And he can bump into one of the WWE camera guys, production guys, and they're like, hey, Santino, I was told to give this to you. It's from Rick. You know Rick. He's up in the production booth. Yes, Rick. And he could have opened the letter, and it could have said, Santino, I understand that you've been looking for me throughout the night. Well, the truth is, you came across me already. I was appalled that you didn't even say anything to me. Well, maybe next time. I've left the arena now. Take care. And Santino could have been like, son of a gun. And that could have been it. So you can still go back to the Raw GM whenever you needed to. This was a missed opportunity, I feel, because they could have done this thing with Santino for a couple of months where he's on the trail looking for the anonymous GM. They could have gave it a Sherlock Holmes effect where he was sitting up and was just on a path of finding out who Jack the Ripper, his whereabouts, where he was and everything. Could have been one of those type of deals, but they really missed a great opportunity right there. Now, in between that Ryback match that I was mentioning a few seconds ago and the main event where you have CM Punk, Bryan, AJ, take a wild guess what that 10 minutes is going to be all about, folks. You hype up the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. You try to throw that last pitch out there why that WWE fan should come up out of their pockets and pay that $40, $50. Why they should go to their parents and say, please, can you order Money in the Bank for me this Sunday? I promise I'll clean my room. I promise I'll mow the lawn. Just let me check out this pay-per-view. That 10 minutes is all that would have been needed to really drive that pay-per-view home. Something else that needs to be added to that, folks, which is all throughout the night, there should have been Money in the Bank moments, Money in the Bank highlights. Who can not forget that CM Punk is the only two-time Money in the Bank winner? Who could forget Edge winning Money in the Bank and became infamous when he cashed it in at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view after John Cena had successfully retained his title in a grueling elimination chamber, and Edge just comes out as Vince McMahon introduces to John Cena his next match, as Edge is going to be cashing in the briefcase, and Edge just comes out, he looks at Vince McMahon, Vince just gives him that look like it's your time, enjoy it. He hands him that briefcase. He comes in there. He spears the hell out of John Cena as the crowd is just in eruption as Edge becomes the new WWE champion. I mean, you want to talk about a great Money in the Bank highlight moment right there. This was the night of Raw where they really should have been mentioning those highlights because, see, unfortunately, a lot of WWE fans, they don't really know about the true history of Money in the Bank. You go up to your average WWE fan and you say, how long has Money in the Bank been around? They'll say, oh, it's going to be 3 years as of Sunday. That's incorrect. Money in the Bank first came into the picture back at WrestleMania 21. And originally it was just designed to specifically appear at the pay-per-view, but then eventually it branched off into a pay-per-view of its own. This Sunday is only going to mark the third time that Money in the Bank has its own pay-per-view, but it extends as far back as WrestleMania 21. So really missed opportunity right there when you think about it, folks, and it's very unfortunate. But that's how I would have tackled Raw for that night, because just think about it, especially you guys that remember watching WWE 10, 15 years ago. You remember how it was when it came to that final Raw before Sunday's pay-per-view. They did their best throughout the entire 2 hours to really drive home that pay-per-view, and they dedicated that last 10, 15 minutes of the show reminding you who all are going to be facing each other at the event, and you're sitting there and you're saying, man, it looks like it's going to be pretty damn good. There's no way I can miss out on this. How can I miss out on this? Take my money, WWE. And, you know, that's been the trend as of late. Now, what I would like to see happen, my suggestion to the WWE, is to sit up and really start doing a better job of driving it home, because it doesn't make any sense. We have Vince McMahon, and he has all those writers, and they are not able to come up with a good episode of Raw worth a damn. Sometimes it's hot and cold. It seems like for every 12 months of Raws that they do, it seems like they get maybe 65% of them right. The other time, well, actually, that number's a little bit high. I would say 55 to 60% they're on point. But the rest of the times, they miss. And those misses, when you add them up, it just really doesn't make the brand look good overall. So I just really hope that going forward, WWE, they can really go back to the formulas that they used to have before and really do a better job of building up the hype for their pay-per-views. Is it going to be a good pay-per-view this Sunday? Hands down. It should be a fantastic pay-per-view. Whether or not it's going to be better than the Destination X pay-per-view, that remains to be seen. We'll have to sit up and we'll have to evaluate it then. But it has the potential to be a really great, memorable pay-per-view. It's just that the way that they have gone about hyping it up, it appears as if they care more about hyping up the 1,000th episode of Raw than hyping up the pay-per-view. And honestly, they really need to be focused on building a better Raw show, because recent numbers have come in for WWE Raw, and this week the rating remains the same. They did another 3.2 cable rating, same as last week. There's only a difference in the viewership. Now, the viewership is 4 point and some change million viewers. That pretty much, it's a little bit of a decline for this week. They lost about maybe 1% than opposed to last week. So the fact that the ratings are remaining the same, that's not really a good sign when you think about it. And we'll definitely share with you the latest WWE Raw numbers going from the month of June, get you caught up to what's been happening right now so that you have a really better sense of what's going on. We mentioned it on our Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown, but we thought it would only be fair to bring up the Raw ratings again on Tuesday's night show, since it's primarily revolved around talking about WWE. But that's just how I would have sat up and how I would have booked Raw's episode last night. And hopefully they can get out of this funk really quickly, because the trend that they have been doing as of late it's just been one of those, what are they thinking, especially with a Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I mean, the history of Money in the Bank itself that deserved to had been highlighted tremendously throughout the night and not just hype it up at a pay-per-view. Now, whether or not they're going to mention all those highlights that I mentioned at the pay-per-view itself, who knows, but they missed a golden opportunity here. Hopefully you guys appreciate that Lee effect. That's how I would have revamped it. We're going to do this right now. We're going to go on ahead. We're going to take a commercial break. It's going to be a brief one. Then when we come right back, we're going to dip into a little bit of wrestling-related news, and we'll get you caught up on the very latest in entertainment news. That's right, entertainment news has returned. So hope you all are enjoying the show so far. Kick back, relax. You're listening to the Tuesday night edition of the Rcwr Show on July 10th, 2012. We're going to take a brief pause, and we'll be coming right back, folks, so sit tight.
Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Want to be part of the show? Want to share your thoughts? Call the RCWR Show toll-free at 1-888-342-9848.
And we're back. You're listening to the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR Show on July 10th, 2012. So for those of you that are a little bit curious with regards to how the Raw ratings have been doing, we'll definitely hook you up with that in just a few seconds. Now, in case you guys haven't heard it, coming up on July 23rd, we're going to be making a rare Monday night appearance immediately after the 1,000th episode of WWE Raw. I'm going to be joined by the lovely Tammy, as it's very rare that she makes an appearance in front of the mic, as usually she's running behind the scenes, chatting with those of you in the chat room and checking out what's going on social media. She's going to be juggling all of those things, and also sitting up and helping me co-host the show for the 1,000th episode of Raw. And one of our special guests that's going to be coming by is hip-hop rapper Scooter. That's right, Scooter is going to be making another return to the RCWR Show, and we had great fun the last time that he was on the show. I can only imagine how it's going to be this time around. For those of you that did not have the opportunity to check out the first go-around that Scooter was on the show, you can actually find that in our archive section. I highly recommend that you go check it out, as that episode had became one of our quickly listened to and downloaded shows. It's going to be pretty awesome to have him back on the show. And we also have some more special surprises planned with regards to who else is going to be coming by the show. So definitely pay attention to our Twitter feed. Follow us on Facebook, and we'll definitely let you know what's going on. It's going to be really awesome. It's not every day that we sit up and we make a Monday night appearance, so bookmark it in your calendars. Give yourself a reminder. It's going to be pretty awesome. And, of course, now that we have a better idea of who all are going to be competing at the WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, it only serves right to do a Call That Match special. That's right. It's going to be another edition of the Rcwr Show, as it's going to be a Call That Match special covering the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. If you're new to that piece, you'll definitely have fun checking it out. I basically sit up and put on my thinking cap and try to figure out from a writing booking standpoint how each match will probably plan out with regards to the winners and losers. So that's going to be really awesome right there. I definitely need to come out on top with this pay-per-view. For those of you that might be a little bit curious, I suffered probably my worst defeat yet when I did the TNA Destination X Call That Match special. I made some very valid points, but I bit off way more than I could chew, and I suffered my worst defeat yet, as I believe I didn't get any of them right. And I think with that Call That Match special, I believe that was the 5th one that I've done so far. So it was my first time just really bombing. So I'm going to be looking to redeem myself very nicely with this one. So you definitely want to check that out. That episode is going to be available Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be available exclusively on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you got to say to yourself, first off, what's the problem? You can get on there and you can get yourself a YouTube account for free, and then you can subscribe to our channel by looking us up at the Rcwr Show. We post a lot of cool stuff on there from time to time, original content. We're trying to bring more original content up on there, so definitely bookmark it. You'll definitely appreciate it. Really cool right there. So, last we left off, we were talking about the WWE Raw ratings. And, yeah, Raw ratings, man, they have been on a little bit of a decline as of late. And I just have great concern for, what's been going on with Raw. And the ratings, man, they have just really been speaking volumes in my mind. Lovely Tammy, do you have the WWE Raw ratings for us now? You're looking at me like I asked you like 90 seconds ago. I gave you some time. Oh, and we're live. That's the beautiful part. It happens, folks. Anyway, okay, Lovely Tammy, I'll buy you some more time. It's on our website because I know Zed was covering the ratings just earlier in the week, but since we're already on July, it may have bumped it to the June archive. So I would check the June archives. It was probably one of the last things we did as the month had closed out. So while she's working on that, you are working on that finally. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so while she's working on that, let's talk about some other wrestling-related news that has been going on. So it looks like we got the return of Rey Mysterio, as that's going to be happening at the SmackDown tapings coming up next week. Rey Mysterio, as we all know, he has been on suspension for the past 90 days, I think it was, probably 90, as he had violated WWE's wellness program. It wasn't his fault. It was some stuff that he was taking to try to burn off his love handles, and there was a key ingredient that was in there that is not allowed by the WWE. And WWE, they were just really acting like dicks because they were well aware of what it was that Rey Mysterio was using, and he had permission to use this fat-burning drug, but WWE, they decided that they had to enforce the rules, and so as a result of that, they suspended him. Really silly when you think about it, but Rey Mysterio, he's going to be coming back at the SmackDown tapings. I know a lot of people, they're a little bit on the fence with regards to Rey Mysterio. You got some people, they don't really want to see him come back because every time you turn around, it seems like the guy is always getting injured. Hey, I can definitely understand that and appreciate that argument. At the same time, however, WWE, they've really been struggling as of late with really connecting with their Latin audience, and they, in my opinion, have been relying too much on Alberto Del Rio, who last we heard is unfortunately going to be getting another run with the belt very shortly. Now, it should be noted that this isn't because of the hard work and time that Alberto Del Rio has been putting in to the WWE. For those of you that might not be aware, Alberto Del Rio has been building one serious reputation as a prima donna. Basically, if he doesn't have his way, he's going to throw a fit and he's going to send threats. He's going to say, well, maybe I should go back to my home country if this is how it's going to be. That's pretty much how he's been acting. So really, this title run that he's going to be getting eventually, it's not a reward. It is basically WWE trying to please him. So really unfortunate right there, as there are other guys that are more worthy of having a run with the belt. I just kind of feel that Del Rio is just one of those type of characters who just comes off better maybe chasing after the title. I just don't really picture him being a long-term champion. Every time I think about Del Rio, and it's really sad because I remember getting behind Del Rio when he first popped up on SmackDown and you saw the vignettes of him and he's getting ready to come. I'm like, yeah, this is the guy. He seems like he's awesome, and I loved what I was seeing from him early on as he was just having his way on the SmackDown roster. But then it just seemed like once he got pulled from SmackDown and he was put on Raw, it just kind of really came off as if his demeanor just changed big time. And once he finally did get a run with the title, it was kind of like, that's really nothing. That's nothing to talk. Big deal. So you got the belt. Who's going to take it from you was the big question. So I'm not really sure why WWE is trying to bend over backwards for this guy. But honestly, I just feel like with Dolph Ziggler starting to become white hot, Cody Rhodes, he's in a little bit of a slump right now, but I still feel that he definitely should be given a run with one of the two main belts. I would definitely put him up there. I just kind of feel like with guys like them, it's definitely time for WWE to acknowledge them as they are younger. They've been putting in the time. They've been putting in the dedication. Let's see what these guys can do. Del Rio, he's had his time, and I'm not buying into this whole Del Rio being more aggressive. That's why he's been taking guys out like Sin Cara, Santino. That doesn't mean anything to me. First of all, those guys are much shorter than him. They're smaller. Of course he's going to have his way with them. Let's see if he can do that to Kane. Let's see if he can do that to Sheamus. Let's see if he can do that to Big Show. Let's see him do that to some bigger stars, some bigger names. That's what I want to see. So I'm fortunate that that's what's happening with Alberto Del Rio there. But, hey, it is what it is, folks. Now, on our Sunday night edition of the RCWR Post Show, we had briefly talked about Kenny King. And surprisingly, there was a number of people that wasn't even aware that this guy was wrestling in Ring of Honor. And the key word is was, as a lot of people had asked me, well, wait a minute, how you know that he's with Ring of Honor Wrestling? Obviously, these people that were asking me these questions, they obviously don't watch Ring of Honor Wrestling, because I watch Ring of Honor Wrestling, so that's how I know what's going on. Yeah, Kenny King, he was holding on to one of the tag team belts for Ring of Honor Wrestling, and he sat up and he decided that he was going to test out the waters in TNA during this whole X Division tournament. Well, Ring of Honor would get word of his appearance on Impact Wrestling, and they had released a statement about the matter. So this is the following statement that they had to say with regards to his appearance. This gives you better insight on what's going on, and we're mentioning this for a reason because we have the very latest on what all has transpired with Kenny King. Now, the contract Kenny King signed in 2011 expired 11 days ago. Before that expiration, an agreement was reached between Kenny and Ring of Honor management for an extension on that contract, with a provision to allow him to negotiate with any other promotions so that he could evaluate his options and any potential interest in him elsewhere. When that short extension concluded, he would then be free to accept and not to wrestle for another organization without Ring of Honor's permission. When Kenny was presented with the written extension reflecting this verbal and handshake agreement, he informed Ring of Honor he was unsure if other promotions would accept the negotiation clause. He was told he could take the document to be examined by his attorney or other interested parties before executing it to be assured any other offers would not be viewed as contract tampering. He also informed Ring of Honor that he would keep us apprised of any developments. He contacted Ring of Honor on Tuesday, July 3rd, to inform us he had a meeting in Orlando on Thursday, July 5th, which was within the scope of the agreement he had made. Then, early morning on July 5th, he contacted an Ring of Honor official to say he would be wrestling on the Orlando event that night. He was told he did not have permission to appear on live television as it violated the agreement that had been made. His response was that the deal he had taken was handshaken and agreed to in principle. Seemed fair at the time, but others had told him it was not, so he did not intend to honor it. Ring of Honor is disappointed that Kenny has chosen to make this decision after the company had agreed to and followed through on everything he had asked at the time of our negotiation. However, we consider this breach of his verbal agreement unacceptable, and regardless of his future employment status with any other wrestling company, Ring of Honor will not be doing business with Kenny King going forward. Now, a statement from Ring of Honor will be forthcoming regarding the future of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. Co-holder Rhett Titus remains on the active roster. Okay? Now, the very latest on Kenny King, folks. Kenny King is done with Ring of Honor Wrestling. That just went into effect earlier today as Ring of Honor Wrestling has stripped him and his tag partner, Rhett Titus, of the tag team titles, and as a result of that, there is going to be a tournament that's going to be taking place, which is going to be featuring 8 tag teams, and the winners will be crowned the new Ring of Honor Tag Champions. So the entire opening round of this tournament, it's going to take place on Ring of Honor TV tapings happening on August 3rd in Baltimore. And one of the headlines that's going to be in that tag team contest is going to be former Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Jay and Mark Briscoe, as right now they're the first team to be announced for this little tournament thing that's going to be happening. So really unfortunate news right there, but it is what it is, folks. And in other wrestling-related news, I don't know how many of you guys had heard about this, but Balls Mahoney, ECW alumni, he recently did a video piece, if you will. Now, we have snippets of audio. We don't have the full interview, but Balls Mahoney, he had sat down and he did this interview, and he had spoke about what had transpired between him and New Jack. Now, for those of you that may not be aware, him and New Jack, they had got into it at the Extreme Reunion pay-per-view, not June, but the month prior to that, and there was a little bit of a heated exchange between them. Then, recently, 2 weeks ago, when they were doing their thing over at the Extreme Rising events for, what was that? I believe it was on the 29th and the 30th of June. They had got into a bit of a scraffle, if you will, backstage. Fight broke out, and the buzz has been, what the heck was that about? What was you and New Jack fighting over? Well, Balls Mahoney would, and guys, you're going to be laughing your asses off when you listen to this sound bite, but Balls Mahoney, he sat up and he tried to offer an explanation of what he had said. Now, bear in mind, I did not sabotage this audio in any way. I just want to let that be known. What you hear is exactly how it was cut. The full interview is supposed to be coming, but for right now, whew, is all I got to say. So I want you to just kick back, and I want you to listen to this. It's a 5-minute piece. We tried to edit it as best as we could to try to come in right where he's talking about New Jack. So for the whole 5 minutes, he's just talking about New Jack. So just listen to this, and then we'll jump right back into it.
Not going to do that, okay? The hell, what happened? Dude, why is New Jack wanting to kill you? I'm like, oh, what's going on? You know, and that's when I find out that New Jack's been posting shit that he's going to fuck me up. I'm professional. I'm costing, you know, I'm a danger to everybody by doing that with some nasty bitch. And I'm like, doing what? Like, what are you people talking? My friend Chris is like, dude, you hear this? I go, no, I haven't had a phone. I'm not online. We were doing a vampire satanic ceremony. Well, there's no such fucking thing, okay? There's no thing like that, all right? And the actual real Satanist, who I happen to know, and I kind of am one of them. In fact, I'm not kind of, I have the fucking card, okay? Consider that to be ridiculousness, because I don't know about him, but I have too much to lose in a fight that nobody's going to win. It's not going to be a winning fight, because I'm not the type of guy to have a fight and get knocked out and let it go, especially not one where it's personal like this. It's going to be something that will be blown out of proportion, and it won't end until either one of us is dead or one of us is in jail. You don't tell people that. That's what happens on the road. Stays on the road. That's always been the unwritten rule. And now he's saying this shit again. What the fuck? What did I do? You know what? This is probably going to get me stabbed, but you're acting like a fuck. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Fuck. Ah! Doesn't help that I just did some tests and some DECA either. I think Jack knows that. We talked about it. In fact, we used to make jokes about it. Man, me and you got into a fight. It wouldn't be a fight. And I'm like, no, it wouldn't. He goes, no, because one of us had to kill the other one. I'm like, you're damn right.
I talked to New Jack about this.
And he said the same thing.
Basically, if you guys are going at it,
it's going to be a fight to the death. It's not going to be like, come on, bam, 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 and a pull apart, dude. There's going to be weapons involved. There's going to be a fucking murder. Or at the very least, an assault charge. You know? I mean, am I scared of getting killed? No, I'm not. Just fucking kill. I'm not the best guy in the world either. I got a temper. I'm an asshole. If I don't have my painkillers, man, you just don't even want to fucking be around me, because I can be a real asshole. Tell you another thing. You know another thing about Jack? You want to know, Jerome, what fucking pisses me off? And you can ask a lot of the black guys in this business. I mean, dude, honestly, I hate everybody. I hate me. I hate everybody. I'm not racist. I don't dislike somebody because of the color of their skin, their religion, their ethnicity. That doesn't fucking bother me. Fuck you. You hate them all. I hate fucking German Jews. I hate German fucking Irish guys. And, oh yeah, and if I'm a racist, my wife's a Jew. Okay? Hey, Rob, you're a Jew. Fuck you, kike, you know? I mean, come on. Every time he dove on me, we never got hurt. And now, I bet he can't say that about anybody else, but never did he get a serious injury from diving on me. And I laid there, and I trusted the guy, you know? He took those fucking Wolverine claws to me, and those things are sharp. Because I trusted the guy, and I don't know if I can trust him anymore, man, because I thought we fixed it. I guess we didn't, you know? I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that day when we had our little confrontation in public and he had his hand in my pocket, I didn't put my hand in my pocket. Because if I did, I was going to pull out the box cutter I had in that pocket and the gun I had in that pocket. Yes, I had a fucking gun, okay? Because that's how serious I take CAC. I puke. I'm a puker. If I've taken too many of something or if I drank too much, I will throw it up. And yes, I think a couple people in the front row got splashed on their shins with my vomit, which was all liquid and some French fries. I'm a heroin addict. Hold on. Yeah, look at those track marks there. You're getting me confused with somebody else. I'm still a nut, but I'm an adult now. You know, I have a little boy at home who looks at me, and what he sees, he's gonna do. Do I want him seeing that? No. And am I like that? No. Do I have a problem with drugs? No. I have a problem finding a doctor that'll give me enough of my medication to function on a 31-day basis. So instead of functioning for 31 days a month, I now function at a high rate for maybe 17 days, okay? And then I'm rough for the rest. Yes, I did everything. I took a shitload of acid. I did a shitload of mushrooms. I did blow. I did everything. My wife knew what I did. And you know why she let me? Because I did it all down there over 4 days. And then I was, you know, not a saint, but I was me for the rest of the year, a good, functioning adult. That's what it did, okay? I'm embarrassed. I have to show you this. Look, that's roots. Everything else has been removed. Roots, but, you know, we had to go through blood work for that. I had mine. I know Axel had his. I wouldn't have done that with him. I wouldn't have allowed that to done that with him if he didn't have the blood work. The last time, he could have had a viable alternative to WWE. He could have had ECW, all of us under non-disclosure agreement, and make it its own company. As long as nobody said I was getting paid by WWE, dude, that would have been the alternative. You wouldn't have a problem with TNA now. You know why? Because your competition would be the company that you own, you dumb fucking Nick motherfucker. But I still love you. EC-Dub, 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 EC-Dub.
Well, now, that was the one and only Balls Mahoney right there. And, man, that was just pretty freaking brutal right there. Oh, yeah, I puked. Just a little liquid French fries. Oh, yeah, I guess that's okay then that you just puke on somebody and they aren't really sure what's going on with your blood work. And last I checked, now correct me if I'm wrong, but when you vomit, there is a little bit of your blood mixed in there, if I'm not mistaken. It might not be hardcore blood, but there is a little bit of blood in the vomit. I don't know. I could be wrong, but last I checked, there's always a little bit of blood in the vomit. Either way, man, that's just fucking gross. And I don't know what Balls Mahoney was thinking when he did this, but hopefully somebody, a family member, somebody will alert him about this, because I BS you not, we did not do anything to the clip. It was actual video that we had came across, and I just broke it down in audio format for you guys to hear. And when you're watching the video, you can just see the cuts. I don't know if you all were able to hear it, but you could just see the cuts, and it was just compelling, like a bunch of negative stuff that was just coming out of Balls Mahoney's mouth. And I'm sorry, folks. I don't know how you guys would feel, but if I'm hearing this and I'm a potential promoter and I was thinking about doing work with Balls Mahoney, after hearing that little 5-minute rant piece, I wouldn't want to have anything to do with him. I mean, where do you even begin with that? He's talking about races. On one hand, he's saying he doesn't have a problem with black people. He doesn't have a problem with anybody. He's not a racist, but then he's using all those derogatory names. It's like, what the hell, man? So I know we got a lot of Balls Mahoney fans out there. I'm definitely a Balls Mahoney fan. I'm not really sure if I'm a fan after this. I mean, I don't really know if that's usually how he talks. Those of you that might know a little bit more about Balls Mahoney than I do, because I kind of came on board with him. I kind of came on board with him a little bit late, so I'm not really that familiar with him. But I had liked what I saw of him. He kind of seemed pretty cool. I don't know if that's usually how he talks or what, but the way that video clip was just compiled, I'm hoping that a family member, or if he has an agent, somebody that's representing him, hopefully they'll come across that video footage, and maybe Balls Mahoney can sit up and say, hey, man, you need to pull that down. That's not cool. You're showing me in a completely different light that I don't appreciate, because that just really made him come off looking like a dick, I feel. So that's going to do it right there. Now, for those of you that have been patiently waiting, we definitely have those WWE Raw ratings for you, and there is definitely great concern for WWE right here. Now, check this out, folks. I just lost my place not that long ago here. Here we go. I got you guys. So this is what's been going on. This was for June, and like I said, we're following it up right on up to what they just did this past Monday night. Ready? Here we go. June 4th, 2.72 rating, 3.91 million viewers. Now, that was the episode where Michael Cole had took on John Cena. June 11th, 2012, it got a 3.2 rating with 4.88 million viewers. That was due to the return of Vince McMahon. June 18th, they did a 3.4 rating with 4.963 million viewers. That was for the post No Way Out pay-per-view. June 25th, they did a 3.3 rating with 4.713. Now, we followed that up with the Raw episode that had aired on July 2nd, which did a 3.2 rating with 4 and some change million viewers. And then for this past Monday, same rating again, a little bit lower for the viewers, just a few points off, still in the 4-point range. So there you have it. Great concern right there, because if you really think about it, after the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, this is going to be their last Raw, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure I'm looking at the calendar right here, because today is the 11th. Yeah, so after the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, they got one more Raw to really try to bring in a strong rating before they go into that 1,000th episode of Raw. Hopefully they can really build it up to where it needs to go. I mean, we already know it's going to be a fantastic night for that July 23rd episode, but they really need a home run here. Hopefully by home run, they need at least a 4.0. I know some people will probably think that's impossible, but I definitely feel that that's something that they need in order to say that the first 3-hour Raw was a success. Now, for those of you that may be curious how TNA Impact Wrestling has been doing, we'll definitely share the ratings for Impact on our Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown. So definitely make sure that you check that out this Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, immediately after a new episode of Impact Wrestling. Don't know how many of you are aware, but WWE.com, they have a list that's up right now where they're talking about the 50 greatest matches in WWE history. Now, we're not going to go through that whole list. What I will do, though, is I'll read you the top 10. Now, at number 10, we have Owen Hart versus the British Bulldog European title tournament finals from March of 97. That was a great moment. I actually remember that one. At number 9, we have Cactus Jack versus Triple H, Falls Count Anywhere match, September of 97. I actually remember that one, too. That was a pretty good one. Rob Van Dam versus Edge versus John Cena, WWE Championship Triple Threat match, July 2006. That was an awesome match. I actually remember that one. Number 7, we have The Rock versus Mankind for the WWE Championship. That was January 4th, 1999. Who could not forget that moment right there? Number 6, we have Rey Mysterio versus John Cena for the WWE Championship on July 25th, 2011. Number 5, we have Jeff Hardy taking on The Undertaker for the Undisputed Championship in a ladder match. I actually remember that match. Yeah, that was freaking phenomenal right there. Number 4, we have Triple H versus Shawn Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship, December 29th, 2003. At number 3, we have Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid for the WWE Championship, July 11th, 1994. I actually don't really remember that one. I'm sure if I saw the match, I would probably remember, but I don't, unfortunately, remember that one offhand. Number 2, Ric Flair versus Mr. Perfect. Loser leaves WWE from January 25th, 1993. Definitely remember that moment. That was awesome. And number 1, we have John Cena versus Shawn Michaels, April 23rd, 2007. Now, just based off of those matches that I just named, you could probably have a field day just dissecting it, as they seem to have messed up their order a little bit with just those top 10. I'll tell you what we'll do. On the next Tuesdays, the Rcwr Show, I'll definitely give you a revamped look at this list, and we'll probably share the rest of the matches. But I just thought I'd share with you those top 10 there. You can see the full list over on WWE's website. I think that part of the reason they're doing this is to cause a little bit of controversy. I think they're doing a good job with that, though, I feel. So, all right, let's do this. We're going to take one last commercial break, and we're going to jump into some entertainment news. Actually, before we jump into entertainment news, there's actually one piece of wrestling news that was just handed to me. I'm not sure how many of you might remember her, but there was a former WWE talent by the name of Serena Deeb. Now, she was arrested a couple of days ago down in Florida for operating a vessel while intoxicated. Now, the crime has been categorized as BUI, boating while under the influence. She was later released on a $150 bond. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, remember the hot little thick bald-head chick that was running around with CM Punk back in 2010 when he was doing the whole Straight Edge Society, where he had, I think it was Festus that was part of the group with him. Well, that was that girl right there. That's her, Serena Deeb. Now, she was eventually released from the WWE because they have felt that she wasn't maintaining the gimmick's image in public. Because remember back then, CM Punk and his gang, they were pushing that whole straight edge, they don't do this, they don't do that, yet wrestling fans were able to see her at drinking spots, you name it. So it was a little bit conflicting there. She's been doing quite well for herself, as she now works as a yoga instructor. So, hey, sounds like maybe she was having a little bit of too much fun, and, you know, hey, it is what it is. But at least she's okay, and most importantly, nobody was injured, right? So now we're going to go on ahead. We're going to take one last commercial break. Then when we jump right into it, it's the return of entertainment news. We know that's been on a little bit of hiatus for a while. We'll definitely get you caught up on the latest on what's been going on and get you ready for our Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown. So, hang tight, folks. We're going to be taking one last commercial break, and then we'll go at it hard. We'll definitely open up the Wrestling Fan Line Zone, get you all's thoughts on a number of the topics that we've been covering on tonight's show. Remember, we're not bringing up WWE Raw, not unless you have something positive you want to add into the mix. So sit tight. You're listening to the Rcwr Show. We'll be right back, folks.
Live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., this is the Rcwr Show with your host, Lee Sanders.
All right, and we're back. You're listening to the Tuesday night edition of the Rcwr Show. It's our Tuesday night wrestling report edition. So before we go any further, we definitely want to just take this time out to send best wishes to Lakers owner Jerry Buss. That's right, the Los Angeles Laker owner is recovering in the hospital after suffering from dehydration earlier in the day. Now, it's said that he's recovering very well and he's expected to be released soon. So the 78-year-old has been in control of the Los Angeles Lakers since 1979, and so far the franchise has won 10 NBA titles under his reign. So really hope that he does hope he has a speedy recovery right there. That dehydration, man, it's no joke. Speaking of basketball, very well aware of what all has been transpiring in the NBA. Know that a lot of big moves have been making headlines. There's been a lot of reports. Well, this is what we're going to do because we know that there are players that are supposed to be signing contracts later today and press conferences, as it is Wednesday now. What we'll do is on the Thursday night edition of the Rcwr Show, we'll definitely dedicate a small portion of the show covering NBA. We'll get those of you that follow it, we'll definitely get you caught up on who all has signed, where everybody is going. I know one of the silly rumors that was being put out there was that Dwight Howard was supposed to be going to Phoenix, and that just makes no sense. I don't know who spreaded that bad rumor, but all I would have to say is get your facts straight, because there's just no way in hell Dwight Howard would go out there. He wants to be with a team that's #winning, and to be doing that in Phoenix, that would just really put him way out there. That franchise isn't even under his radar. So we'll definitely have the very latest for you on what all has been happening in the NBA on our Thursday night edition of the Impact Showdown. So make sure you check that out. It's going to be coming live at 10 p.m. Eastern. Now, let's talk about what's been going on in entertainment news. Now, Aerosmith, they just recently released a new video titled Legendary Child. That's going to be coming up from their 15th album titled Music from Another Dimension. I actually had the liberty of checking out this video, and it freaking rocks. Girls on roller skates, you just can't go wrong with that. But the music itself, probably the best of Aerosmith I've heard to date, and that just says a lot. I've been following Aerosmith very closely for the past 15 years, and I just love all the stuff that they continue to put out. This album, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be disappointing at all. This is going to be their first album to follow up from their 2004's Honking on Bobo, so that should be awesome. It's going to be coming out in October, so definitely want to check that out. And we got some Kiss news for you guys. It looks like Kiss, I know, Kiss is making headlines. Kiss is going to be releasing a new album titled Monster. That's going to be coming out on October 15th in North America, and it's going to be coming out October 16th, basically the day after, internationally. And they've got a new track that's floating around right now called Hell or Hallelujah. And, man, this is the band's 20th album, and I'm saying to myself, wow, Kiss has a new album that they're getting ready to put out. I thought these guys were supposed to retire, and they're still going at it this hard all these years later. Really phenomenal stuff right there. Check that out if you haven't gotten a moment. You definitely won't be disappointed. I got some Nine Inch Nails news for you guys. I don't know how many of you are Nine Inch Nail fans. I know I'm definitely a fan. Trent Reznor has made headlines. As it turns out, he's going to be working on the soundtrack for the upcoming video game Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, this game is going to be taking place during the Cold War, where the U.S. and China are basically dealing with an international villain that's basically trying to pin the two nations against each other. So should be a really fun video game right there. But yeah, Trent Reznor is going to be working on the soundtrack to the video game. Now, he is no stranger when it comes to doing soundtracks. He just recently did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and he did The Social Network, where he won an award for the soundtrack. And he just has continued to be on a streak of producing some really great stuff. If you haven't checked out that Social Network soundtrack album, highly recommend that you go pick it up. Probably some of his best work to date. It's definitely right up there. And Trent Reznor, he's also no stranger to doing soundtracks for video games, as in his resume, or on his resume, if you will, he did some work for Quake, and he did work for Doom 3. Now, one of the main reasons why he's going to be working with the Call of Duty franchise is because he's always had a fondness for the franchise. And he also noted that he has begun working on new material for Nine Inch Nails, which will mark the first batch of new music from the group since 2008's The Slip. And he was quoted saying that right now it's in the gestation period. So really phenomenal stuff right there. And we got some other entertainment news for you guys, where filmmaker Spike Lee is currently in the final stages of production for a Michael Jackson documentary that's going to be focusing on the King of Pop's album Bad and going on a world tour. Now, this film is going to be syncing up quite well with the album's 25th anniversary, which is going to be featuring 40 interviews done by Lee with Michael Jackson's confidants, choreographers, musicians, and other collaborators. Lee also interviewed contemporary stars like Kanye West to Sheryl Crow, who just so happens to have been a backup singer for Michael Jackson during the Bad tour. And they're going to be talking about that album's influence, its continuing influence. Now, it should be noted that back in 2009, Spike Lee was no stranger to the work of Michael Jackson, as he had directed the clip for Jackson's Postmonius track, This Is It, which basically had used archive footage of Jackson mixed in with, moments, fan tributes, things of that nature. So the documentary is going to accompany the September 18th release of Bad 25, which is going to be a box set celebrating the 25th anniversary of the record. And it's also going to feature an unreleased performance at Wembley Stadium in London of 1988. Now, there's no official release date for the documentary, as that's all that's been announced for now, so that should be pretty awesome right there. And we got some U2 news. It's not every day we hear a negative thing about U2. Usually every time you hear U2, you hear nothing but good things. Well, we got a little bit of bad news for U2 fans. Not that type of bad news. Nobody's left the band or anything like that. It's just actually a case of bad luck that one of the bandmates had experienced. Now, check this out. The bass player, Adam Clayton's assistant, has recently been found guilty of 181 counts of theft earlier this week. As it turns out, he had stole around 2.8 million euros. In USA dollars, that's 3.5 million. And he was doing this between 2004 and 2008. And he would spend money on exotic holidays, designer goods, 22 horses, a Volkswagen, not to mention a ton of other things that he had bought. This is one of those WTF moments, because let's keep it real for a minute. And it's okay if you don't like U2 or if you're not familiar with U2. Just think about your favorite artist for a minute. Now, picture, if you will, you have the opportunity to work with them. it's like a dream come true. It's like almost being literally with them in the studio as they're working on new material. I mean, can you just imagine that? Before anything comes out, you're in the know-it-all. You're in the loop. You know what's happening. You're going to get that album from that artist that you're working for long before the public even gets it. I mean, talk about the perks, not to mention the fat-ass amount of money that you're going to be paid by working for your favorite artist. And you're going to jeopardize that for self-greed? Ah, man, I know plenty of people that would kill to be working for a band like U2, Metallica, LL Cool J. I mean, you name it. I mean, it's just really stupid and silly when you think about it. I say good riddance. This guy's got exactly what's coming to him, shows him right. It's just really stupid when you think about it. All right, so we're going to go on ahead now. We're going to open up our Wrestling Fan Zone, get some of you guys' thoughts on what all has been happening in the week of wrestling. So without any further ado, let's go on ahead and let's jump right into it. We got our good friend Dave on the line. Dave, you're live on the air, my friend.
Hey, how you been doing?
Hey, pretty good, bro.
I don't really want to talk about Raw. I want to comment. I think you'll be getting a job offer from the WWE now for the writers. They said that last week on TNA, now you got a WWE job lined up, even better. But I want to comment on the TNA or the WWE top 10 you revealed. There wasn't really nothing I didn't dislike about the list because I kind of agree with Shawn Michaels and Cena if it's the one I think it is after that WrestleMania. They had like a 60-minute match on Raw, which you don't ever see that really. And just that one match, that triple threat match about RVD and Cena and Edge. I mean, that would be the WrestleMania main event. And it's just like go-home shows nowadays, you know, it's like they've been really bad. And Monday did seem like a 3-hour Raw.
Yeah, it really did because they were producing so much bad content out there, and it seemed like they had only made reference to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view maybe only 3 times, and it's like, no, that's really not enough. You really got to drive that bad boy home, especially with all the history that Money in the Bank has.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't really want to get into that, but I don't know. I mean, where do they go from here, really? I mean, after the 3000th Raw, I mean, yeah, that's going to be a great show, but what about all the other Raws after that? They're not going to have all these big guests and like that, so I don't know what they're going to do after all that. And that's what I'm kind of worried about. I did see a tweet out this week or last week where the USA is really all in on this 3 hours permanently. For this, and they're not. Hopefully it does end in January, but way it's looking. I mean, I'm still wondering about where's this WWE network at.
It's funny you mentioned that, Dave, and thank you very much for your call. With regards to the WWE network, well, Dish Network, they don't want anything to do with the WWE. DirecTV, they don't want anything to do with the WWE. There's a couple of other cable Dish Network providers that don't want anything to do with the WWE right now, but they're trying. They're continuing to try. Remember, we were supposed to get the WWE Network launched at the beginning of this year, but it didn't happen. So now we're sitting up, and here we are. We're halfway done with the calendar year, and we still don't have a WWE network that's launched. It's because they're having a lot of problems right now. And you know what? You actually brought up a very valid point because it ties so perfectly into the current state of what's been happening with cable providers. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen the commercials, but we had Dish Network, if I'm not mistaken, sit up and they said that beginning in July, they were going to be dropping AMC, And as a result of that, you're going to have a ton of people that are not going to be able to see their favorite AMC original shows, such as Breaking Bad, which is one of my favorite shows. If y'all haven't seen that yet, you can actually set your DVRs if you got to go to work in the morning. That's usually what I do, as they air episodes from the entire first 4 seasons late at night, like sometime after 1 a.m. You can catch them as they're getting ready to come back for their 5th and final season. But you're not going to be able to see great shows like that. You're not going to be able to see shows like Mad Men. It's really ridiculous, as the name of the game is that cable provider, they got to be able to know that they'll definitely be able to make a profit, and that basically, you know, that network, working with that network, they're definitely going to be able to turn a profit. The demand is there. So, you know, I don't know. I think this is one of those scenarios where, unfortunately, WWE doesn't have enough of a backing. Now, they'll try to tell you a different story. They'll try to sit up and say to you that, oh, things are going good, things are working smoothly, but notice there hasn't been any type of an announcement yet that they have formed a partnership with somebody. That's because nobody is interested. Nobody wants to do business with them. So I'm definitely going to be watching that story very closely. But, yeah, folks, for those of you that have Dish Network, even DirecTV, y'all are feeling the losses right now, because now we have them taking away shows that you would think that they would never take away. You would never think that BET would be at jeopardy. You would never think that Nickelodeon would be at jeopardy. You wouldn't think that AMC would be in jeopardy, because these are channels that are part of pretty much basic cable. So how can you do wrong by, you know, eliminating those channels? I just think it's really silly what's been happening right now. If you happen to be one of those victims that lost your favorite channel recently, best advice I can give you is look up Xfinity. There's no problems right there. You get all your channels that you want. You don't have to worry about none of that silly crap. That's the best advice that I can give you right now. Speaking of which, we have some very important news for you TNA fans as it pertains to a message from Hulk Hogan. We definitely want to share that with you all on the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown. So be sure to check that out this Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, immediately after a new episode of Impact Wrestling. You definitely want to make sure that you tune into that episode, as we're going to try to do our part in making sure that we get word out. Now, we have a new segment that we want to introduce, and we don't have that much showtime left, so let's jump right into it. It's a new segment of our show that we're going to call Hidden Gems. Once a week, every other week, I'll sit up and I'm going to give you a DVD and a CD pick to go check out, as I feel it's something that's a little bit underrated, something that's not really talked about. Give you something to do, something to check out. So first up, for those of you that are a little bit into jazz, especially instrumental jazz, there's a CD I highly recommend that you check out. It's a little bit on the underground. You have to kind of figure out which websites you can get it from. You could probably get it from cdbaby.com. It's a CD by Bob Sterling, and the name of the album is Peer Pressure. It's a fantastic album. Highly recommend that you pick it up. It's got 8-9 tracks, all instrumental. It's just really something you can just bob your head to. True story, I was actually good friends with the bass player named Wade, who did a phenomenal job on the album, and he tragically had died a couple of years back due to health problems. And Bob Sterling, though, he went on a little hiatus for a couple of years after Wade had passed away, and he regrouped, got a new bass player, and they recently have put out their second album, but highly recommend that you check that out. And I got a new pick for you guys. It is a musical DVD that actually just came out earlier today. I am a huge Robert Plant fan. For those of you that have followed the career of Robert Plant, you're into Led Zeppelin, you're familiar with his current work that he's been doing with bands such as Band of Joy, you'll definitely appreciate this. It's a DVD that came out today where he had performed with Band of Joy, and they bust out some classic songs. They also played some new songs. It's really awesome. Highly recommend that you go check it out. Truly, it's phenomenal. It had took place on the stage of Nashville's historic War Memorial Auditorium down in Tennessee. Really great stuff like there. Check it out. It's called Live from the Artist's Den. Definitely want to check that out. It just came out today. That's going to do it, folks. I think we did a pretty good show tonight. We got a lot of stuff covered, a lot of ground covered. Thank those of you for checking out the show in the chat room. Thank those of you that had called into the show. Those of you that are going to be checking out this episode on YouTube, Stitcher, and on the downloads, thank you all kindly. Let's do this again this Thursday night for Impact Showdown. Until I hear from you guys this Thursday, y'all be safe and y'all be kind to one another. Take care, folks. See you this Thursday night.